I'm Juice out of New York, and we're doing chapters 7, 8, and 9. Far Journeys. Moving along nice and smoothly. Let's see. I've been practicing the Gateway program, and it's pretty interesting. I just did a meditation last night on the remote viewing session of it. I didn't even know he had a remote viewing session in the Gateway program. I never did the whole thing. I've only started in the beginning, the discovery, and I never went on beyond the discovery area before. So now we're getting into the threshold and remote viewing, energy healing. So it's pretty cool. I'm enjoying it. I hope I finish this one this time. I think I will.
You have all 7?
Yeah, I have all 7 of them.
Yeah, because they cut one of them out.
Yeah, and I also have the ones that you remember that guy that used to come to our
Bob?
Bob. He used to come and he actually gave me the tape cassettes, the old
Yeah,
ones, and I
yeah.
converted those onto I converted them. You have some of them.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to see the difference between the two. I'm trying to figure out the best I can if there's any differences between the two. So
Awesome. You should write up a report.
yeah, so far I don't see much difference, but I didn't go deep into each one back and forth, so I'll do that soon. I just want to focus on finishing it first. So
Yeah, I think the missing one is like number 6 or 7.
okay, I wonder why they pulled it.
I don't know. Maybe
That would
David knows.
be interesting. Yeah,
Hmm.
maybe David had something to do with it,
Could be.
but he won't tell us. All right, Jason, I'll move on to you. What's going on?
Oh, just keeping busy over here, but still slacking on the OBE front. But I'm getting there. I did for everybody that's behind and like doesn't have the book or just wants to be able to catch up ambiently. All 3 audio books are linked in today's meetup's description, so in the commentary below. And books 2 and 3 are in chapters, so like you can just listen to it in your car and whatnot and catch up
Cool.
to everybody.
Awesome.
That's me.
Thanks, Jace.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you want to put a link on there or anything, just to
Yeah,
remind
it's on
me.
there. That's the link is. Oh, I can link
On
it
the
here too.
chat.
But it's in the meetup, but I'll go ahead and double up.
Yeah, because some people come in through here through the Facebook groups.
Gotcha.
So, hey, Susan. Yeah.
It was a little rough. I mean, we didn't even have phone service or TV or internet back until a week ago today, last Friday, I think, when we finally got some reliable internet and TV and cell phone back. So it was really crazy.
Yeah, Susan, I remember you were trying to possibly make it to some of the meetings and you couldn't.
It was, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I don't see how anybody in Texas, from here
Yep.
up, I don't think anybody could have done anything. We were just paralyzed. We were just, everything was all stopped. We were literally frozen here. Nothing going on.
Well, I'm glad you guys are back. David. What's up, David?
And yeah, looking forward to tonight. Actually, I was trying to get my cousin to join because he had some surreal. I mentioned it the other day. He had some surreal dreams, and he believes he projected. And I have some stuff to talk to you, Juice, about that you might be happy to hear regarding someone from the Monroe Institute.
Oh.
But I'll of
Awesome.
course I'll carry that after the meetup. Maybe we can talk really quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with actual out of body experience, but until it happened about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I believe I had one. So I'm looking forward to learning some more in this group and having some more experiences. Thank you.
David, look how quick the time's going by, right?
It's funny, I know. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, we're in
I
the
can't
section.
believe how you talk about it. It's like 2 or 3 weeks. It seems like it was just yesterday.
Yeah,
I know.
actually, it's what, 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. I'm practicing though the manifestation of the watch. I'm trying the motion technique I found out. I don't know if we've covered that, the motion technique. It's another Monroe technique that they use. Anyway, we'll talk more about that after. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, David. Let's see. Denise, would you like to do an introduction? Where you're from, possibly, and some out of body, if you want to share an out of body experience with the group?
So I'm from the Northeast, right outside New York City. I was in Austin until recently, relocated back here. I've read one of Monroe's other books, Journeys Out of the Body,
Mm-hmm.
and I have had a couple of I think they were out of body experiences. Spontaneous. I've never really tried to have any, and I have been lucid dreaming for very many years. So just trying to find out more if there's a technique to like um do more out of body experience. I don't have the book anymore. I think he had a little thing in the back, I recall. But yeah, I just find it fascinating and it would be cool to delve into that a little bit more.
Yeah, you'll definitely pick up some techniques and information tonight, and it's a lot of sharing. So I hope you find something new.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming. I was curious, how far upstate New York are you?
No, I'm actually in Jersey, right outside
Oh,
New York.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Patterson.
I'm in Orange County, New
Oh,
York.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, how far are you,
Poughkeepsie.
how close are you to the city?
I'm about a little over an hour from New York City.
Okay, I'm 20 minutes away if you're ever in the area.
Okay. Yeah, I grew up going to Seaside, so.
Cool, very cool.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
And Julie. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Juice. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie from California, near Orange County. So you almost said, I almost thinking you were from California, Juice. Um, I've been practicing meditation for over a year and studying this OBEs and NDEs and astral projection for about a year, on and off for about a year. I've had a number of lucid dreams after learning about it and applying techniques to learn how to lucid dream. And I guess my most recent lucid dream was a couple weeks ago. And then I've also, of course, been practicing out of body techniques, and I've had what I would call half OBE. I haven't been to the astral realms, but I have had what I get. I'm learning all this terminology as I go, but I guess I've had what I would call just an OBE etheric, in my etheric body in my own bedroom, but half OBE, half dream like, probably 5 times, and then maybe one fully awake, wide awake, out of body where I was just I was not in etheric body. I was just a cloud, like a cloud, fully awake and conscious. And then I had that one 3D experience where that was very unique. I wasn't an etheric body. It was just an out of body. It was just a 3D blackness, just conscious experience. And yeah, just learning like there's a lot of realms. There's a lot to this. There's a lot of variety, diverse experiences, which, is hard for an analytical left brain thinker. You want to categorize everything and have an answer for everything and put it all into boxes, and it doesn't work that way here.
Yeah.
So I'm stretching. And I appreciate y'all in this group.
Thanks, Julie. All right, guys. Heading into the book, chapters 7, 8, and 9 tonight, and part 2 of Far Journeys, called Part 2, Far Reaches. We get into a lot more journeying of Robert Monroe leaving it up to his higher self to take him out and take him on different experiences. Here are parts of the replica vocabulary. So we're going into some new vocabulary here. That's because he's having trouble between nonverbal communication and the way we communicate as humans. So is anybody confused on that? So we get into some stuff here that he mentions in the book. One thing that wrote here is a thought ball, which I kind of like. It's a packet of information that's tossed at you while you're out of body, which transfers knowledge, information, experience, history all at once at you. So it's a giant ball full of information. There's no talking. Ident is used a lot. It's a mental name or address. So it's like your IP address, like your internet address of where you're located in time and space. So that's how he starts identifying where he goes out of body, is through like addresses. And he calls them intelligent species, inspecs. And then here's some more down here. So he uses these informations as he's talking to the inspecs, the intelligent species, when he's out of body. And these are some type of high consciousness beings that he starts contacting. No more moving your lips and stuff like that. It's all telepathy, nonverbal communication. Anybody want to talk about that there? Talk about any of this? Susan?
No, I just want to say I can understand how he made it. He simplified it for himself by breaking the communications down into, and he used his own words that work well. They're not the same words that I would use, but I understand everything that he's saying by the description. So I can understand why he did that. And even though, like I said, even though I don't use the same words for the same kind of communication or whatever, I understand what he's saying, because it's the same. It's the same. We just have a different, we just think of it differently in our minds. But I understand why he did that. It simplified it for himself, and it simplified it for his readers. So he was a journalist. He knew what he went into this really, with a journalist ear, a journalist eye, with everything. So yeah, he covered his bases. Yeah.
And I know some people probably don't. Would you say that's more scientific approach to it, like the way he's doing it?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it is, because I was reading, when I was reading on it, and I was remembering, because it's been a long time since I read this book the first time, and I was thinking about it back then when I read it, the same things I noticed it at the same back then, that these are all his terms, and my terms are different, but we're all different. But for somebody that's just reading these books and hasn't already got like had 30 years of astral projection under their belt, this is what he's done to me is extremely helpful. The way he broke it down into these different little code words and stuff, I think it was very helpful to anybody that's new to it, and hasn't had a lot of experience himself. It will simplify it, I think, for them a lot too. So I have a real appreciation for how he presented his material and how he approached this as a journalist, as a researcher, and he did a good job.
Yeah, I agree too.
Mm.
I like that, the way he breaks it down like that.
Yeah.
So Monroe starts to get into new modes of OBE travel, and basically he's letting somebody else do the driving for him. And then he gets into knowing that he has more, which we've talked about before, more than one non-physical body. So basically now he's starting to get out of his body into another body, and then getting out of that body into another body. which we've talked about. And feel free, anybody, to put your hand up at any time as I throw information out there. I'm just basically looking through my notes that I made on each chapter here and throwing stuff out at you guys. In this new strategy, he has trouble getting back into the body in the beginning. So during this, he starts talking about having a little fear of getting back into his body and having some trouble. And he starts to remember the days way back during the vibrational and physical paralysis sensation problems when he had those. But this time it was without the panic. So he had a lot more confidence and he didn't panic like he used to back in the beginning, journeys out of the body. Julie?
Okay, so I was a little confused when he said he left his second body behind. Is that talking about the etheric body? He left that behind to go into an astral body?
See, he doesn't really get into it with those terms. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. But I was going to ask your like interpretation. If now, you know, so many years ahead of that and we have new terminology, is that
right, right.
Yeah, I was a little confused about that. Because what I've heard, okay, so what I'm learning is, okay, so we have our etheric body that we can travel around this 3D dimension in. But I thought you could pretty much not just go 10 feet, but you could go to another planet in your etheric body. And then when you go to another astral realm, you shed your etheric body that's left behind and you go into an astral body. And then there's astral realms. And then if you go to an even higher realm, like some people call it a mental realm or a celestial realm, you shed the astral body and you go into a mental quote unquote body. So that's I'm getting throwing a lot out there, but
if anybody versed more into that, I'd like to answer that question.
Although I've heard that
Susan?
the etheric body the etheric body, you can really transform it into a ball of light, you know, a little wisp of wind. It's very malleable and it's very ghost-like, I guess, ethereal. And it goes through, of course, the physical walls and physical 3D this and 3D that. But if it will not go through an etheric object, because your etheric, whatever the frequency of your etheric body, and if there's an etheric object, it's on the same frequency, so it won't go through that, but it goes through our physical dimension stuff. That's where I'm at in learning all of this. But anyway, that kind of threw me off. I'm like, wait, he had to leave it behind, like close to his physical body. I wasn't sure what that meant.
Susan?
I thought maybe that's the energy body. I've also heard there's an energy body, like an energy interface, not so much a body, but an energy interface that connects the astral body to the physical body. So I thought, well, maybe it's that. It's so confusing.
It is. Susan, did you want to respond to that?
Well, I know I said I think the last time I was here, I talked about the fact that, I mean, I've projected out of my physical body into a secondary body, which I thought I was still physical. Walked into my living room, or just floated into my living room, you know, and collapsed on the couch because I was so disoriented, because I didn't realize I was already out of body. And then I projected out of that body from the couch, but I've never isolated them as this body does this or this body does that. So when I'm going out, depending on where I'm going, because I have been to the astral realms, I've been to other planets, I've been in space, I've been to other dimensions, dimensional levels, and different things. I've visited people in the afterlife. It seems like there's a knowing, or I think that I trust, because I had such good training when I was younger, in my 20s and 30s. I had such good training then, that I just trust when I go out that if I hold that destination, wherever I'm going, it doesn't matter, because I will state very clearly where I'm going. And I don't even question that I'm going to get there. And I always get there. but I don't notice the switching from body to body, which may take place because you obviously, if you're getting into finer and finer vibrational space, you're going to leave a lot of substance behind. So you have to, you have to change yourself. You're altering, your density, your own density to get there. And what you said was correct, Julie, about the, if you're on a level, if you get to a level and you can't pass through something, or you touch someone and they're solid, they're on your level, they're vibrating like you are. So you've reached this level where, where that body serves you there, just almost like a physical body would here. You can use it in the same way if you're on that level with them.
Okay. It's so interesting. I just keep learning so much, like exponentially, as I just keep diving in.
Yeah.
So like you were saying with David, and how far he's gone with the learning process and the experiential process. It's amazing how much we can learn in so little time when we really put the effort in.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, just going through the book again, I'm picking up so much more.
Yeah, for sure. The second time, me too.
And then he gets into, having trouble getting back into his body after he starts going out of the second body. So that was pretty interesting until he figured out a way to wiggle his way back in, something with his shoulders. He talks about and then he had no problems really after that once he figured it out. So as you go through stages, there's always challenges.
Yeah.
He brings up the security repository box, which he talks about in the Gateway program, of putting all of your problems and stuff in there, where you can place your thoughts that get in the way, anything that gets in the way. A big heavy box, he'll mention that in the Gateway program, which I'm doing now. You lift that up, you put those thoughts in there because they're not going to help you. They're just going to cause problems. And then you close that heavy lid and keep them in there. So that was a big breakthrough then when he mentions that.
Yeah.
Of having him go farther.
Yeah.
Then he talks about when he leaves his second body in orbit close to the physical, Julie, what you just brought up, and then the third body, or the energy essence. So I guess he's referring to it as an energy essence. Another word for it. There might be someday where somebody can compare all these different things to each other and make a little graph of what are common between all these terminologies from different people. So, yeah, Susan.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I think that a lot of, when I've talked in class, a lot of times talking to people and other people who had out-of-body experiences, and our vocabulary, once again, it comes down to your vocabulary may be different, but if you really sit and listen, you'll understand, because you're always going to describe it a little bit differently than somebody else does, because you have different words, you have a different background, you have different experience, whatever, but it's just a difference in words. It's just we're still, we're having the same experience on different levels. We're all doing the same thing. It's we're going out of our body energetically. We're actually separating from our body and being active elsewhere. It's just the terminology is a little different person to person, but if you get and you sit and talk about it, they all come together and you understand what each other's saying. So I just appreciate really everything that he did while he was alive, to help make this more understandable and a simpler explanation for all of it. It's not so esoteric. He doesn't approach it from a real esoteric point of view, or he doesn't attach strict religious anything to it. It's just simplified, and I appreciate that's what I so appreciated about all of his books.
Right.
Yeah, it's different labels for the same experience, but for a novice it becomes complicated, because as a novice you're reading maybe a Monroe book and then maybe two other authors, and they're using different labels for the same but hopefully, Juice, as this becomes more and more of a mainstream, hopefully there'll be some good writers that can organize this and put it all into more of a comprehensive format. That's my thinking. I like both. I mean, I want to have the experiences and make my own judgment calls, but I also like to refer to some kind of consistent like categorization, but that's just because of maybe the way my mind works. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah, that makes sense. And it turns into a problem too when he's out of body and he's trying to communicate with these other beings and stuff.
Oh
And
yeah.
it comes another terminology problem when he's trying to communicate with words to these people.
Yes, yeah. The ball thing, that's kind of like a download of information. I've heard other people say, "Oh yeah, I got it when they were out of body or whatever. I got a download of information."
Yeah.
Have you
Yep.
heard that? Yeah.
Yeah. The rote ball there of information that he downloads. Yep. And then you hear other authors talk about downloading information too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So this group believes that that's all connected. I've constantly heard about this download information. Most claim it's most that I've spoken to claim it's from some extraterrestrial by either extraterrestrial visitation or some extraterrestrial entity, but you believe it's connected to the astral realm then?
I personally think you can have downloads from both, from human people who have passed on, who have evolved, humans who have evolved, and ETs who have evolved. Sure.
Something I don't know if it's the chapter. I apologize. I didn't raise my hand, Juice.
No.
I just chimed in there. Something about this chapter when I was reading. I had a dream last night, and it could be influenced by the dream, of course, where I was dreaming I was a part of a group of assassins that were fighting another group of assassins. I don't know why, but during the dream there was elements of things that happened during the day, and I was aware of that in the dream. I was like, wait a minute, why am I dreaming about this? I had this happen to me during the day, but somehow it got incorporated, and I was questioning everything that was happening. Then all of a sudden I look up and I saw what seemed to be some kind of thing above me, and it was like a bank, and it looked like some kind of repository of information that was sending millions of dreams to people all over the world, because it was all these streams going to everybody when they go to sleep. And interestingly enough, these dreams are all the base of the dreams, the foundation are all the same, but they get modified based on what you experienced during the day, what you've experienced in the last couple of months or the last year. So it's catered to more to your level, so that it helps maintain your sanity. It was just a weird, anyway,
Yeah.
That sounds like a cool dream.
Yeah, it kind of brings us in what we'll be talking about tonight with the intelligent species of how they're watching over us and kind of trying to influence to a certain degree for learning. So yeah, interesting. That's David, maybe you're starting to make contact with what he's going to be talking about tonight.
It's funny about this group. Somehow in the last month or so, it's somehow making me pull away from the romanticized version of astral projection that we've seen in Hollywood, and it's slowly removing my expectations or assumptions of what it's supposed to be. That's it.
Susan?
Where he's talking about the assumptions that people have about astral projection, and the mainstream media and movies and different things do romanticize it, and they do make it look sometimes it almost looks like it's unattainable, but going into this, what I think something that helped me, because I started doing this when I was a child, and I didn't know anything about it, and it was a good thing, and there were no books available, there was nothing, there's nobody I was going to talk to about it. You don't tell your parents weird stuff like this. I kept very quiet about it, so it was just experiential up until I was in my 20s when I read my first book about this. I don't even remember what that book was, but because I had not read anything about what I should expect, I I was freer, I think, to experience things, because if somebody told me something was impossible, I might have never have tried it, but I didn't know what was possible or what was not possible, so I just went for it. And I think that that was helpful to me as a young person. You know, I really do. And I think that's an important thing for people to know, is that you don't place any limitations at all on this. I don't think there are any limitations. I'm not sure that there are limitations. You know, in spiritually speaking, there's been nothing that I've tried to do out of body that I haven't been able to do. You know, sometimes it's taken me months to accomplish something that I was trying to do, but because no one ever told me when I was young that it was impossible, and I still don't. Even though I've read things, I still don't think anything is impossible to me. And if I experience it, great. If I don't, I'll try again later. You know.
I think that's a really important point. And I think we see it most when people like hear about something for the first time, like lucid dreaming, and then they instantly have a lucid dream, and then they stop having them, because then it becomes a matter of like figuring out, well, what magical thing did I do, rather than it's just like, oh, you just need intent, and that's about it. You know,
Yeah,
we get ourselves into trouble by like putting boxes around things and, you know, breaking up rules.
Yeah.
And then we stop ourselves. So yeah.
Exactly.
That what Jace just said and what who just spoke as well, Susan. Holy crap! That's exactly where my mind was at and still is to a degree. I put a box in everything.
Yeah.
Holy shit, Susan.
You have to think outside of the box, you know, and just assume. I still, when I go out, I still just assume that anything is possible. And just because I haven't experienced it, if it's something that I want to try, I'm going to keep trying. I mean, I'm a pit bull when I'm learning something, and I will keep. I don't care if it takes me years. I don't care. I'm going to keep trying, because I just, yeah, just you don't put any limitations. You decide what you want to do, and then you put it out there, because you have people, you know, you have a Dr. Shaw. Does anybody know who Dr. Shaw is? Zhigang Shaw. Yeah, he's well, he's a healer. He used to be, I think he had something to do with the United Nations, medical part of the United Nations years ago. He's a healer. He teaches, but he calls it the heaven team, or heaven team. He said that was his way of putting it. But he said, if you want to think of them as spirit guides, as angels, as interdimensional beings, as extraterrestrials, whatever they may be, even if we're not sure, he just calls them the heaven team. But we all have them. We all have them. And so if you put your intention out, there were things that I would plan months in advance, because I figured it would probably take me a while to have this experience. So I would plan them months in advance, and I would ask for help. You know, I would sit and just I would talk out loud. I'm always assuming, you know, that the right people are listening, and I tell them what I had planned, and then leave it at that, because I'm confident that they're going to help me, because they've always helped me since I was probably 30 years old. They've always helped me. They've always guided me, and I've always found my way to and from where I was going. So I just say, put it out there. Whatever you're trying to do, put it out there, but don't put any limitations on how that might occur, because it'll surprise you. You know, things that you think are going to happen a certain way happen a completely different way that you haven't even thought of yet. You know, everything hasn't been written about. The basics are there, and then we go out and flesh it out with our experiences. So
Thanks, Susan. All right, so Monroe starts to get into sharing some of his experiences with his new OBE navigators, and he put "my total self?" Also using the new terminology as he tells the stories. And during his OBEs, Monroe visits sleeper classes he talks about, which he believes we all go to these classes during deep sleep, but forget when we awake. All of these classes. So now when he goes to these classes, the people that are teaching these classes realize he's in an out of body state, and they're like, "Oh, it's you. You're one of the Ubers, OOBERS." So, and then he doesn't belong there anymore for learning once he got to the state where he's remembering that he's actually there going to these classes. They almost kind of kick him out, and he was one of the star pupils in the class during these classes. Yeah, go ahead, Susan. I try to fix this here in the same time.
I was trying to think, what were we just talking about? I had something.
Going to the classes while you're out of your body, the different classes.
We do go to classes while we're sleeping in that lucid state. They can take us and do. I've done that, and I loved the fact that you can go. You can whatever you want to learn. If you can plan that and make a journey to do that, you can do it in your sleep. And when you come back, there's an upload process we were talking about earlier. Someone was talking about that upload process can take days. It may not happen immediately. You may not just sit there and say, okay, come upload everything I just learned. It may happen over a period of time that you upload this information. I think we're constantly uploading information that things that we've learned while our bodies are sleeping, whether we're out of body, whether we are just conscious elsewhere, but we haven't actually made an out of body experience. Perhaps we're lucid dreaming, and they're working with us in lucid dreams. But there are actually schools on all these different planes. There are schools that you're allowed to go to any of them. Anything you want to learn, you can go and learn. And if it's above you, if it's above your level of understanding or where you are energetically at that moment, you just won't understand it. It'll sound like a foreign language. It sounds like it's completely, but they'll still let you sit all the way through it. They're not going to kick you out. You can sit through the whole class, but you'll know that it's not your class if you don't understand what they're saying. If it sounds like a language that's just completely foreign to this planet, that's how it sounds. So I've been through some of those, and I've sat and just listened anyway. I thought, well, I'm just going to stay here because, I'll soak some of it up. I don't. But yeah, if you don't understand it, it's just not your class.
Right.
Yeah, but that you can learn a lot of things. You can go to some really good classes. Yeah.
Julie?
So, gee, Susan, sounds like you have a lot of experience.
She does.
Do you not have your own YouTube channel or anything like that?
No, I had a website for a few years, and then I let it go a few years ago. I don't. I haven't. I used to teach class in this. I've taught, and I've written in different research journals in 3 different countries and things like that. I've done a lot of that, but no, I've never maintained a YouTube channel. I have a couple of little snippets of videos on YouTube somewhere from.
You just seem like somebody that needs a YouTube channel. So I have a question regarding the classes. Is this something that this is pretty much what afterlife people do? And then as an OBE, out of body person or astral projector, they can participate, but they're participating in what an afterlife situation is normally like? Do we know the answer to that?
You mean a person out of body? Are they
right? Is when you're talking about these different classes, is this really afterlife classes? It's not really primarily set up for astral projectors. It's just that an astral projector can join it.
Yes, an astral projector can join in these classes, and they may be for people in whatever afterlife they're in. They can be in other dimensions. They can be in such higher realms that they're so strange and so foreign. And you're always allowed. I mean, you're allowed to wherever you can get to. You're allowed to sit in, but you just won't get anything out of it if you're not
right.
Yeah, because I've sat
You don't
through.
speak that language. If you're not on that frequency, I guess, in a sense.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I've sat through some. I've sat in some, and I've gotten up halfway through them and just said, well, this isn't my class. I'm going to go
Yeah.
find my class. And because I didn't understand a word they were saying, it was interesting. I could see people drawing. There was one that was absolutely wonderful. Once I went to into a class, and there was a lady with some kind of, I don't know how she was drawing, but it was almost like a big chalkboard, but it wasn't. And she was just using her hand and she was making these images, and she made a 5-pointed star. And then she was referring to, and then she overlaid that over the human body. And she was going into these healing modalities that were just beyond me. I have a lot of friends who are healers. As far as I've ever gone is Reiki and reflexology and stuff like that. So that it really wasn't my forte. So I didn't understand. I understood the correlation to the, you know, the arms, legs, head, 5-pointed star. I understood that, but beyond that, she lost me, and I could understand what she was saying, but it was still beyond what I knew and what I was looking for. It wasn't something that I was moving toward. So I knew that, well, this isn't my class. But I did tell friends about it later, and they said, oh, it was my class. You know, yeah, I probably was.
Okay, so does that mean that in the astral realms or the afterlife realms, people are still learning how to heal?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think learning ever stops anywhere. I don't think it ever stops.
Because there's still learning, or there's still healing needed, even in the lower and middle astral realms, for example.
Absolutely. When people pass away here, I've been practicing medium for about 48 years. I don't do that much anymore. I'm kind of retired from that, but I've always made a visitation agreement with everybody that I know, so that when we pass away, if I pass away first or they pass away first, we have this visitation agreement in place that whoever goes first will get the attention of the ones left here.
Yeah.
No, we're okay. So, and if you make a pact with someone, they will always keep the pact. They will always keep it. I've done that with, I've lost so many relatives in the last 10 years. I can't even, it's been one or two, at least two a year for the last 10 years. Parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, and just recently my older brother. And we had a visitation agreement. And he hasn't, it's been 6 months, a little over 6 months now. And I expected him, because this guy was a force of nature, and I figured, well, it'll probably be quick. You know, I haven't heard from him yet. I haven't heard from him yet, but they go into healing if they, especially if they had any kind of major trauma before they died, or they had an extended illness. And he had things, you know, for the last few years, he had illnesses that came up and things that were going on. But then this last thing where he was hospitalized, and then he was given a clean bill of health, and we thought he was coming home. The doctors kept him for a couple of extra days, and boom, he came down with COVID in the hospital, and he died.
Wow.
And so he's in healing. I've seen this out of body. I've gone to people that I know that have passed to see how they're doing, and I've caught them. I mean, I've gone at times when they actually were receiving some sort of healing treatment. And so I understand that, you know, we can't put a time limit on how long it takes them to get their act together and come back and say hello, appear, whatever they're going to do, because I think that some people need really intensive, deep healing from this place, and from
Detox, healing, recovery. Yeah.
I think so. I do.
All right. Now we move into the Z55 that Monroe bumps into. He meets. He identifies himself, or the ident, he calls it, Z55. Let's see. And he makes the connection with this person in the outermost ring. So as we talked about the rings earlier, the different rings, and rings on top of rings on top of rings. It's an old friend called Lou. So Z55 is an old friend called Lou. And he goes and he wants to go visit Z55's home. So Monroe suddenly goes there, and he's in a big city with no cars, trucks, or vehicles, no utility poles, sidewalks. It was bright outside, but with no sun visible. He could not tell the difference between male and females, and he had to use his NVC, his nonverbal communication, with the people. So, which he feels he's not that good at yet at the time. So he's got to get better at that, he brings up. And then he gets stopped in the city that he's in here, visiting his friend's city, for not having the proper ident. And he calls it the KGB. Found out he's from Earth. And they told him he should go back home, go back to Earth. He shouldn't be there. He should be, he shouldn't be really exploring there. He's not really, I guess, welcomed in a certain way. And he doesn't have the right paperwork, whatever, to travel across to that area. And then, let's see here. He left the place, Monroe leaves it, when these big waves started. So suddenly these big waves start coming at him, bigger and bigger, moving up the city. So he sees them coming towards him, and people are running to their safe houses. And these waves are lifting buildings up in the air. And this thing is called the surge, some type of surge that goes by. It's a little confusing, but he's obviously scared, and he should be in a safe house there. And this is the same spot where the KGB told him he doesn't belong. And then after that, he's out of there. He's done once this surge goes through there with these big waves. And basically, he's like upside down inside the building. He's sideways, upside down, all different directions and stuff. Julie?
Do you guys know when he said outermost ring? Do you know which or circle that is? Outermost, was that the fourth or the fifth? Because if it's no female, male, female, doesn't that have to be in the like in the fifth or sixth circle? Do you guys know? No.
No.
That's okay.
He didn't. I don't remember him bringing it up in there either, which number that was. But, he did talk about the numbers. But, Julie, it does lead us into an area which you probably liked, where he gets into, after that, another OBE. He talks about a pile of wet, slippery forms, like worms.
Right.
Yeah. And they were all piled up, and they were all trying to seek sexual satisfaction. So just big pile of worms inside like a can, and they're all on top of each other.
Yeah, that's bizarre. That does not seem like the higher realms to me. That sounds like lower astral stuff to me. So I don't know. I'm a little confused with it.
Yeah, he eventually says that's locale 2, and basically he's back into the areas where he always tried to get past, the areas he didn't like in locale 2. That's where he's exploring.
Okay.
So yeah, he does get into that.
Okay.
And basically they were all dead male and female humans, all piled into this, trying to get sexual satisfaction. And
that's very bizarre. Very bizarre.
Yeah. And just like endless. He doesn't know if this stuff ever ends. And basically he talks about, this is from my memory, I don't have notes on this, but he pulls somebody out by their leg out of there, and he's trying to get the person's attention, and trying to figure out, what the heck are you doing? Why you break it, wake up, get out of this. And the person has such strong feelings, I guess, for the sexual satisfaction release, that he can't get through to him. He can't communicate with him. He just drops him right back in the pile. And then he goes back in, and he's back in there and lost again.
So do you all think this is like a real astral realm, or is this like some kind of weird subjective dream realm? Because it's so hard for me to believe that it's like an afterlife realm that exists. It's just very difficult for me to think that. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah, Susan.
I remember that. I remember that part in the book, and I wondered myself if that was something that was subjective to him that he needed to experience, because a lot of times they will always expose you, the people that help you, the guides, we'll just call them guides, we'll say guides, whatever you want to think of them as, whoever's helping you, they will take you to experience things that they need for you to learn or for you to see, to kind of round out your understanding of the whole phenomena. But so maybe this was something that he needed to see and experience, or it could maybe, perhaps it's a real place. I've never seen that. I understand exactly what he's talking about. And I understand how people get trapped in that kind of level of attachment. That would have been something that was residual from when they were human, probably, and they were probably seeking that same kind of release. Yeah, it may have been subjective to him, but I understand what he was saying, and it's possible that they took him there to learn. You know, I mean, he didn't participate. He didn't want to participate. After he experienced that and saw how deeply enmeshed these people were, and trying to seek this satisfaction, it helped him actually to be more to keep his goal in mind without having those feelings, without having that distraction, because it is a huge distraction.
Yeah, he said it helped him.
Yep.
Afterward.
Yeah,
to be
and
stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Because anything,
he's like, okay, now it's even. All I have to do is think of that, and I can get through the whatever the sexual drive stuff.
Exactly. So I
Yeah.
think maybe that was helping him. Maybe that was to help him.
Yeah, Susan, yep. You're right. He found, basically, after that experience, he found a new way to control his sex drive after that. Because a lot of times when he gets out of body, this sex drive takes over, and he doesn't always care for that pull, that sexual pull all the time.
Yeah,
So
because
after that experience,
it's a huge distraction.
yeah.
And once you can, I liked his thing about putting everything in a box. I've never done that, never tried that, but I've always done the thing, where, you know, if that comes up, it's just like, oh yes, that's interesting. Well, I'll think about that later. And then I go on, and you never think about it later. Once you get past that, it's like a hurdle that once you get past, you don't think about it anymore. You really don't think about that during that experience. You may think about it during the next experience, but it's just like, oh yes, that would be interesting, but I'll think about that later. And
Right.
It's a hurdle. You get over that hurdle and then you go. But
Yeah, Susan, yep.
It can be a big hurdle too. So I can see how they may have presented that to him, or taken him to a place to show him how this can just mire you, you know, and keep you like stuck in quicksand. If you don't get past it, you don't go on to experience the things you actually want to experience.
Right. He brings up the example of the guy that he pulls out of the pile. And as soon as he thinks about that guy that he pulled out of there, he instantly loses his control of the sexual drive from that, after that experience. So yes. And then he gets in, that's where he believes he's going to locale 2, that he used to pass through quickly in the past by letting his higher self do the driving now. So, question mark, you know, it's leading him there to learn something, like you said, Susan.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a hurdle. It's a learning curve kind of thing. You know, you have to pass this hurdle, and it seems to be one that everybody encounters. At least
we all have these hurdles, and I think fear is one of the biggest hurdles that every single OB, you know, anybody that's practicing this has to experience and push through. Is the fear. Maybe this sexual thing is one, but fear, I think, is probably even more powerful.
I agree.
Right. Yep. All right. Let everybody ready? Move into chapter 8. And contact point, chapter 8. Monroe, in this chapter, starts wondering who's doing the driving, navigating during his OBEs. Who's doing all this navigating and stuff. He's getting more curious about it. And then he's also realizing how the nonverbal communication is so important now in his progress through OBEs. Instead of relying on his higher self to take him places, he started using the inspects, which are intelligent species, short for. He started calling his guides / pilots inspects. So that's what we refer to as guides, his pilots driving him around. And oh, we got Brett joining us. Hey, Brett. Let's see here. He started calling his guides that, and then let's see. Oh, this is interesting. These inspects basically looks like it created a simulation so real that Monroe could not tell reality from illusion in these learning simulations that he starts brought it into. And this is really big today about the simulation theory. The simulation theory today, a lot of people are talking about. And Monroe's talking about this, back in the 70s, 80s. So basically, these inspects are taking him on these simulations that are so real he can't tell the difference, and he's actually learning a lesson. So
Yeah.
maybe we're all in one right now. Susan.
I'm sorry to take up time here for
That's
people.
okay.
But that right there, I actually marked that in the book because I wanted to mention that you can, when I first started getting out of body and having, like, as a grown-up, when I just really started having a lot of fun with it, and I was allowed, I say I was allowed, I feel like in retrospect I was allowed to do a lot of things for fun for years for fun. But at some point, because I'm kind of service oriented, and I always, even when I was a child, I always thought that there had to be something really good you could use this for. There had to be something really important that you could use this for. And I used to sit and if I prayed, I would pray about that. If I meditated, I would go in with that in mind. How can this be useful? And how can I be useful in this state if I know how to do this? What can I do? What are the possibilities? And then I started to have these experiences like he was talking about with guides, where they would take me, I would be called out of body, and I would find myself in this place where there was a scenario that had been created. And I didn't I understood in retrospect that these things were created to see how I would react and see how far I was actually willing to go to find out what I could do with this and what my actual deep motivation was. That's key. That is so important. And you can't fake that. You can't, you can't fake it. And on one particular out of body occasion that seemed to be a huge turning point in my life and in my astral life, I was taken into this room with multiple other people. That I would say there were 6 to 8 other people there with me in the room, and somebody had come in, and this was a very ornate, beautiful room, not big. It was like just a parlor-sized room. It was everybody was sitting in a circle, and somebody had come in. There was someone who had come in and sat, and who was obviously the person who was in charge of this circle. And I was aware that everybody there with me in the circle was astral. They had projected there for a reason. And they talked to us for a little while. I'd have to find the notebook because I've got notes going back all the way into my teens. And this would have been in my early 30s, I think, probably around 30, 31 years old. But this happened, yeah. But I found myself in this room, and they were talking to us about our desires and what we were trying to accomplish. And so people were just discussing. And then the person that was leading this, and it wasn't a person like us, this was not an astral person, this was a different kind of being. It was, and they asked us to open our hands. And so all of us held our hands out, and they walked around and they put a big piece of coal in everyone's hand. Everyone, so all of us, all 6 or 8 of us, whatever, had a piece of coal. And they said, close your hands over the coal. So you close your hand like this, and they said, now tell me your deepest, innermost desire. And they would go one by one and ask us, hold this coal in your hand and tell me your deepest, innermost desire. And the first person they asked said they wanted to live an adventurous life, that they just wanted to have fun. They wanted to have adventures and get everything they could out of the physical experience and all of that. And they were, you know, they told them that, and they smiled and nodded and said, open your hand. They opened their hand, and it just turned to sand, and it rained out of their hand like sand. And there was nothing right or wrong about it. It's just what it did. And the next person, they went on to the next person, and they said, well, they wanted to have a career in such and such, and they wanted to make money because they wanted to have a comfortable life, and they wanted to have a good life for their children and all of this. And so they went on, all of them. Then they had this person open their hand, and that person's piece of coal was still a piece of coal. And so they went to every person like that and asked them something. It was that they would go like fall like grains of sand between their fingers, or it would still be a lump of coal, or it would break into several pieces of coal, and it would be there. And there was no right or wrong answer. They weren't giving wrong answers or anything. They were just, they were looking for something in all of us. They were looking for that seed. What is it what are you coming from? Are you coming from ego? Or are you coming from a place of spirit in your desire, you know? And so then they asked me, and I thought about it. I was like, oh my God, what do I want? What do I want? Because I really didn't have anything great aspiration for myself, but I wanted to do something with this. And so I remember saying, when they asked me, what is your deepest, innermost desire? And I said, and I was squeezing that piece of coal, and I said, and this was from the heart, this was like straight from the soul. And I said, I want to do what my spirit sent me here to do, what my spirit intends for me to accomplish with this life. And I don't know what that is, but that's what I want more than anything. That is what I want. And it was the truth. And so this person said, open your hand. And I opened my hand, and the coal, it had turned into, it was like a big emerald, like an emerald the size of the coal. And it turned into an emerald. And when I opened my hand, it was there, and then it just shattered. And all of these little green crystal shards went everywhere. It was like they were raining all over the floor around me and in my lap, and all just falling all over me. And I understood that I had started something at that moment, that's what they had brought me there for. It's like, what do you want? What do you really want? I wanted what my spirit wanted, and I still want what my spirit wants. We're all ego, you know, we're all egos, and we have things we want too, but you really get down to this, and this is such a miraculous thing that we're able to do when we get out of body. It really is miraculous if you think about it, you know, that we can do this. So there has to be something wonderful that we can do with it. And so that was really the beginning of my teaching, what we can actually do with this and what we can accomplish. And I love that in the book when he talked about, when he mentioned this, these scenarios that they create, because they do, and they're testing you. And it's not a bad test. You can't fail it. You can't fail any of their tests, but they will create scenarios for you to see how you react, what your motivation is in any situation, what your motivation is, how far you're willing to take it, how far you're willing to allow yourself to be fearful, but go on anyway, act anyway. That's important.
All right. Thanks, Susan. And this leads us in where Monroe talks about what these inspects' role was in the human earth pattern. Were they ex-human helpers from the outer rings? He's asking himself, were they possibly from the outer rings helping the humans? And Monroe was being told that there were other conscious growth centers or schools throughout the physical universe. So all over the universe, you got these schools in all different parts of the galaxy, which is pretty cool the next time you look up, for whoever doesn't know that. And then I wrote down here, you heard about if you hear about the Buddha, how he used to teach outside of his body, and how he used to go to schools and how he used to teach outside of his body. So that I remember hearing, seeing documentaries and hearing stuff about the Buddha and stuff talking about that. The inspects were in existence before humans ever came into being, several million years ago, at a minimum, he says, Monroe. And humans and inspects were both created by the same source. And he describes that source as basically the parts between atoms that spin, which is what we have in common with each other. So that energy between stuff that spins, the stuff you can't see, is how we're connected. And then I just brought up here when he goes back to his body now every time after all these excursions, he needs to slip into a second body first, which is his ident body, and then he slips back into his physical body from that. So he's got to do that every time. And then Monroe starts realizing that these inspects he meets have been interpreted here on planet Earth as gods, devils, angels through time. So humans have been being contacted they've been contacted us, and that's how it's been interpreted. And then today, they mentioned this in the book, they might be more known as UFOs, because UFOs are pretty big too. So whatever the culture's at, whatever point it's at right now, flying saucers and aliens and stuff like that. So Monroe wants to learn so fast to why we are here and why they are here helping us. He wants to learn that so fast, but then he's being told to slow down. So they're telling him to slow down, and he won't understand everything. And he has small steps, and they use a phrase, learn to walk before you fly. And it's funny when these inspects start saying this stuff to him, because they're kind of like, hey, you humans, as you would say, learn to walk before you fly. You know, so they're trying to put it in best human terms to try to have him slow down a little bit, because Monroe is so antsy to learn. And that reminded me of the movie Contact. If anybody's seen the movie Contact, how she gets blasted off into space, into another area, and she wants to learn so fast why they're there. You know, what's the reason humans are on Earth? What's their place in the universe? And the person that meets her there in another universe is like, slow down, small steps. We've been doing this with you here on the planet for a long time. You won't get all the information at once, and you won't be able to understand all the information at once. So the inspects are trying to help him go into new directions to understand as much as possible, the best way they feel he can absorb this information. And then he gets into some OBE training exercises that they send him on. So some more simulation exercises. And one of them, he's in a plane with his friend Bill. And then he talks about these different experiences and stuff, these different learning experiences. He gets into some stories. And then once Monroe goes back to his body, he starts to think of how many people living on Earth today who are going through the same thing that he's going through. And who are they telling about this? So this small collection of humans on the planet that are experiencing this, who are they talking to about this? And who's going through this, you know, right now, the same thing that he's going through. And then towards the end of this chapter, he starts to look up at the stars outside, and he thinks how we're not alone out there, and we're never alone. He just looks up and he thinks about all the schools that are up there and all the places that we travel to when we're sleeping and out of our bodies, and of course the OBEs that he's able to do consciously, and just looking out there with a smile on his face as the chapter ends. So would anybody like to comment on chapter 8? If not, I will pull up the notes for chapter 9. The Rainbow Route. Julie, take it away.
I was just going to say two things. Susan, you can never talk too much. I always learn from everything that you share. So love, love, love. And then Brett, I spy with my little ear You know how I know your voice, which I shared with you privately. Like you sound like a radio voice. I have a feeling you were on Quick Life After Death Q&A Seeking channel with Cyrus. You don't have to confirm, but I recognize your voice. Anyway.
Yeah, I was.
Ah, see, I don't need a face, just a voice and the first name. And it's like, okay, I know that voice. You have a very
Busted.
sorry, Brett. You have an obvious voice.
I just wish Cyrus stuck around for questions afterwards.
Yeah. I know. Well, I'm in a group with Cyrus. Are you in that? You're probably not. I can invite you to it and you can probably ask him stuff from the group.
All right, that'd be great. Thank you.
But you don't do Facebook, really, right?
I would for something interesting like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, I don't. Here, I'll just put it in the chat because I don't know you on Facebook. Okay. All right. Bye.
Cool. Yeah, I put it in there for everybody to check out, definitely.
Okay, I will.
All right, chapter 9. Guys are moving along here, and at this point, Monroe accepts his new role, whatever it is. So he's still confused on his exact role, but he's accepting what's happening to him. And no longer pushed hard for further adventures or activities in other energy systems. So basically, he starts giving up exploring other energy systems and stuff like that, and totally sticks to these inspects and what they want to teach him. So he's totally homed in on these guys here. No more Locale 1 trips and messing with his friends and stuff. That's finished for now. And visiting, you know, weird areas. He's trying to keep it to one area. And then he starts talking about different events with the inspects and stuff that's they're teaching him and stuff like that through here. There's these long stories. Some of them to me are confusing. I don't know about you guys, but they're pretty deep when he gets into some of these stories here. And then he's basically spaced through several years of time where these periodic meetings with in sessions with the inspects and stuff. So a lot of these stories that he's talking about is through many years visiting them. And then he goes into a story when he's a little boy. He goes into a story about that, and then he starts getting into these stories that he needs to learn. And some of these stories are really hard on him. They really they hit hard, they hit deep. And Monroe's very anxious to take on what they want to show him. He's like, basically just bring it on. And then for the first time he starts to bring up the pure energy, which is called Loosh. And I remember we get into this a lot. Loosh/love. And Loosh is the energy that humans are producing here. And if I remember correctly, in the future, we're going to learn how this is harvested. This Loosh that we all produce. A lot of it from drama that goes on here in Earth. And then the inspects are starting to show him past life experiences after experiences to help him learn and understand his own life, where he's at and where he's been and possibly where he's going. And then he tells a story about a sacrifice that he had to do. He was put in a situation where he had to do this ritual where he had to take a knife and sacrifice a woman, and he didn't do it. He dropped it and he decided not to do that. So it was some type of test that he had to go through, part of his learning process. And then he talks about an experience he had with a dog named Steamboat, who gets hit by a truck and dies. And it's a story to teach him somehow that the closeness he had with this dog was eternal. And that one almost brought me to tears. That was a sad story there. If anybody wants to comment on any of these stories that they read, some of them are pretty deep. Just throw your hand up or start talking. So the inspects say that what we call curiosity is perhaps the most unrecognized and undistorted form of energy. So our curiosity for stuff, humans.
And I must put out a lot of freaking energy.
That's good. You'll be up there before you know it, Julie. You'll be up in these classrooms, and you'll be telling us about it.
It's a driving force.
Consciously, that is, Julie. We're doing the classes now, supposedly, so, but consciously and
I'm not
remembering
a
it.
risk taker though, and I do have fear, but I am super duper curious. So maybe there's like a little balance going on there. I don't know. But my fears are based on obviously, you know, past experiences and religious crap that I think I'm over, but then maybe I'm not, so, you know. But super curious. I'm
Yeah.
very very curious.
I think it's good. Monroe's starting to wonder near the end of this chapter what destination the inspects are bringing him to. What are they trying to bring him to? He's trying to figure this out. And at the end of the chapter, he goes back to his body from past inspect sessions and had changed. Let's see, for the rest of his. So basically, yeah, he's been changed now for the rest of his physical life after meeting these. So if you ever see any videos of Robert Monroe after all these changes he went through, this is who he became. And these were life-changing sessions that he had with these inspects. And there's a lot of stories on there. So if you didn't read them, you can go on there and read them. They're pretty deep. And they're, you know, I have a note on here. They're confusing, some of them to me, and very deep. And I suggest read some of them. And then if you read them now and then you start having more experiences in the future, it's probably going to make more sense to you. I know me reading these now, I'm starting to understand them more because hopefully I'm getting more educated on all this, so it's making more sense to me. All right, and that brings us towards the end of this chapter. So there's just a lot of stories in there that he goes on that they're trying to teach him. So if you haven't read them, I'd say read them. Susan?
If you're practicing this, you're practicing astral projection, and you're starting to have experiences, it's really important to keep a notebook and try to at least keep notes. I'm very frustrated when I look back at some of mine that were done hurriedly and I didn't go back and flesh them out. I can still remember, but I'm wishing that at the time, some of these, when I was in a rush, that I spent more time on. But you will have stories like Robert Monroe had stories with these beings. You'll have your own stories. So if you keep this, date them, write the date and the year that it happened, and keep them. Don't keep them like me. Mine are in so many boxes in one room. It's just unbelievable. But if you keep them in some kind of chronological order, it's like personal archaeology. Then when you go back and look, you can see your progress. You can get a better idea of what they are trying to teach you when you look at the experiences, the cumulative experiences that you've had. You can kind of see what direction they're pointing you in and what they're trying to, because they'll always go with what your innate abilities are, and your inclination, your personal inclination as a spirit is. Are you here to serve? Are you here to accomplish something really big? Are you here to just learn? I mean, are you here as strict? Is this a strictly learning experience for you? They will take whatever your innate abilities and your deep-seated desires are, and that's how they work with you and use you for greater things astrally.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Susan, very good advice and so true about keeping a note, how important that is and how you can accelerate. I'm gonna let David come in here. David wanted to tell us something, so I want David, before we run out of time.
I did.
Remember in the beginning, David, you said you wanted to tell us something. You had some news for us, possibly.
Oh, yeah. I remember I told you I have the contact over at the Monroe Institute in Vancouver, BC, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk to him periodically every 3 or 4 months. I was going to ask you, aside, if you'd be interested in me bring him as a guest on your Zoom group, your Zoom meetup at some point after we finish all the books.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be
Okay.
great.
So over the next coming months, I'll talk to you more about it. Maybe introduce you first and see how you feel, and then you can make a decision after that.
Okay, yeah, because we're moving along pretty fast here. We're doing we're going pretty smooth here, so
Okay.
we'll be done before we know it
All right.
with the last book.
Like the last email I got from him, just as an example, he based on what he tells me, he really experiences this stuff at a whole different level. He does astral projection at locale 1, and he can initiate it. I don't know if he can initiate it at will, but pretty close to initiating it at will.
Okay, yeah, and I also, David started that storytelling too, so I want to do some more of those, the out of body astral projection storytelling. So we can just, if he wants, do it through that. I'll talk to you more about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good.
David, are you on the Austin Astral Projection group? Which one are you coming in through?
On Facebook, you mean?
Are you on the Facebook or are you on the meetup group? Or both?
I'm on the meetup group, but I just joined your Facebook group. I get your invites all the time.
Okay, good. So I can contact you through there then.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can find me. I got it today. I'll just send you a message.
Okay, great. Thanks, David.
His name is Paul Elder. He
Paul
seems like
Elder,
a nice
okay.
guy. I mean, he's open. He's talking to me all the time. He's actually the guy that hinted to me that they're still working with the government on the remote viewing program.
Oh, right. Yep, what you brought up a few times. Oh, that's, yeah.
I thought that was dead with them, but he said no, that there's still military joined them and they still do it. That's a bit of the interest he had in me. So yeah, we'll definitely talk. I'll talk some more with you. You can make an informed decision, I should say.
Cool. Thanks, David.
Hey, no problem. My pleasure.
Before we close the night, does anybody want to say anything? If not, the next one will be Monday, and I'll have it up there tonight. So the next Zoom meeting will be Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, same time. Next 3 chapters.
All right.
All right, thank you. Everybody, great night.
It was fun.
Enjoy your class tonight while you're sleeping.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Maybe we'll see each other, some of us in class, if we can remember.
That's so
All
awesome.
right.
That too. See y'all Monday.
Bye.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.